Picture yourself as a killer born to destroy nations, only to find your first real battle is surviving a fancy Korean high school full of rich kids. This is the tale of Kang Jian, a human supercomputer who fights with built-in cheat codes. He can take on a whole group of bullies without even getting tired, but if you ask him for his Instagram, you'll only get a blank blue screen. His job is to sneak into the world of the super rich and hang out with the coolest kids in the nation, which sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Wrong. His real trouble isn't rival agents, but jealous heirs, the school's queen bee, and the fact that he's never tasted tekkabaki in his entire life. And get this, his backup consists of 2 legendary agents who pose as his parents, care more about him making friends than the mission, and will absolutely destroy any corporation that messes with their son. But honestly, who's really more dangerous? A trained killer or the school's most popular girl? If you love seeing a clumsy hero teach spoiled rich kids a lesson, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. A fresh adventure or mission kicks off as a plane cuts through a sky so clear it looks like nothing is there at all. It lands right in enemy land. A huge, brand new airport full of busy travelers and planes. The crowded terminal is a wild mess of people, and every single one stands in your way. But in the middle of all the chaos, one family stands out, looking totally out of place as they walk through arrivals. They step out of Terminal 1 and take their first steps into a brand new world. The dad in his loud Hawaiian shirt takes a deep sniff and shouts that the air tastes different here, but his wife giggles and warns him he's in trouble for talking like that, while their son just wishes the ground would open up and swallow him whole because he asks if they really had to dress so weird. Son, his mom says, pulling him into a hug he clearly doesn't want. My handsome son, you simply cannot speak like that here, she chirps, totally ignoring his pain. Soon after, they squeeze into a taxi and speed through the city. Dad is going crazy over those huge skyscrapers, as if he's never seen a tall building before. He stares wide-eyed at all the weird and colorful buildings, totally losing his mind. He literally sticks his head out the window and just screams with pure unfiltered amazement. And there it is. An excited dad, an entertained mom, and a son who is already 100% over this trip. Dad looks confused as he asks, "Are all these buildings this tall?" Mom just smiles at her silly husband while their son stares out the window, wondering if he ever made the right choices. The taxi driver chuckles and says, "You must have missed Seoul for a long time, friend. You have no idea." The dad yells, "First time, first time," almost giving the poor driver a heart attack. He begins to say something different, but his wife has had enough of his silly behavior and stops him. Bam! She grabs him by the collar, pulls him back, and shouts at the driver, "Oh my, look at those buildings," to keep their minds off the danger. The driver glanced back, sweating and totally baffled by the weird people in his cab. It seems the collar yank was a critical hit, leaving Dad completely knocked out in the passenger seat. Mom chuckles softly to herself as her son curls up to the side, officially quitting the family. They finally reach 2 super sleek, brand new apartment towers. Standing outside, the mom gushed, "Oh my, I love it, honey." The dad beamed with pride as he shouted that their brand new home was worth more than $4 million. And, okay, Mr. Moneybags. Their son scans the area like a secret agent, muttering, "All clear." Just then, a security guard wanders over to check on the commotion. "Are you here to visit?" the guard asks, blocking the way with a strict rule about visitor passes, while the family just stares back at him like aliens who have just crashed onto our planet. Dad points dramatically up to the tallest building, the biggest house of all, which is right here where we live. The security guard's jaw dropped straight onto the pavement because he never saw that one coming. The mom beams with a huge smile and happily says, "We moved in last month." The guard stands frozen in shock, drenched in sweat as he struggles to make sense of what just happened. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the bustling halls of Seoul International High School. Back in the classroom, the teacher announces a new transfer student, and you never guessed who it was. The students were so shocked they had to check if he was really staying forever or just visiting for a single semester. The entire classroom is buzzing with excitement as everyone tries to guess who this new mystery kid is. The teacher told them that his acceptance into their advanced class was all the proof they needed. She looks at the new kid and asks, "What are you doing? Aren't you going to introduce yourself?" He just stands there for a second, letting the quiet wrap around him, which is pretty dramatic. "I am Kang Jian," he says with a straight face, then adds, "Nice to meet you." Before I gasp at how great his speech was, one of the girls in the class gave a smug smirk, as if thinking she was super stylish. She declares she's my type right as another girl shouts that she's already claimed her. The teacher claps to catch everyone's eye, and Kang Jian moves toward an empty desk. He slams his bag down. The red-haired kid and his friend instantly squinted at the newcomer with looks full of suspicion. The teacher challenges Kang Jian to prove he can keep up, noting that it's already the second semester. Kong Jian sat there with his arms folded tight, saying not a word, acting like he was too cool for school. The teacher points to a laughably tough math problem on the board and challenges you. If you're feeling brave, come up and solve it. Kong Jian barely lifts his eyes to the board. He says 22-4 without even blinking. What a total legend. The teacher was so stunned by what she saw that she couldn't even believe her eyes. One student is scribbling furiously in his notebook, double-checking his answer. With a trembling hand, he lifts it up and shouts to the teacher that he has finally cracked the puzzle. The teacher is completely shocked because he just solved a super hard problem in his head, which feels like something only an anime hero could do. And he finished it in just 2 seconds flat. My guy is basically a human calculator. The rest of the class stares in total shock at the new kid's huge brain. Even the students who doubted at first are now staring in shock at what they just witnessed. The girl who claimed him just smirks, resting her chin on her hand, and I suddenly like him even more. But Kong Jian isn't here to make friends. He's just sitting at his desk with a very clear goal in mind. I'll make sure this mission gets done, because that guy sure isn't your typical high school kid. And now for the tragic backstory. As a much younger Kong Jian gasps while pushing through a grueling training session. He is being dragged through the woods, battered and bruised, while a terrifying officer keeps a watchful eye on him. They pushed him right to the breaking point, forcing him to cram high school English and math while under intense pressure. A dark, looming figure, likely his trainer, stands over him like a final boss. His training wasn't just reading books. It was a harsh routine of sharpening knives, punching trees until wood flew, hitting paper targets with deadly precision, and learning to use guns, all watched closely by his strict coach. After enduring such a crazy childhood, he carved himself into a living weapon. The officer stands still and watches, his face lost in shadow, making him look very mysterious. The boy stands ready, with a single drop of sweat or maybe a tear tracing its way down his determined face. The memory keeps playing out, showing a fierce practice fight between the young Kong Jian and his commanding officer. He didn't even think before flying forward and closing the space in a heartbeat. He lashes out with a high kick, but the officer blocks it as if it were no big deal. The officer hits back with a furious punch that makes the young man dive to save himself. The sudden speed and strength of the counterattack catch him completely off guard. Before he can even stand back up, the officer delivers a crushing kick that throws him flying. The officer looked at the young man with eyes as cold as ice, while the beaten but unbroken boy stared right back. The two clash once more in a dizzying blur, their sharp blades humming as they slice through the air. The view shifts to a high-tech command center where the officer turns and declares, "Number 7, your mission is now official." He stands in front of a towering wall of screams, giving orders to his young agent about their mission in southern Jose. The officer's face was as grim as the news that it would take at least a decade, though he knew the truth was far worse. He reveals his crazy plan, to sneak into South Korea's super-elite upper class and build powerful connections. Then wait for the party's orders, he finishes. And that is your mission. Without a shred of doubt, Kong Jian snaps to attention with a sharp salute and says, "Understood." As an officer watches him and a sliding door opens to reveal 2 more people stepping out. A serious-looking man with glasses and a young woman, both in uniform. The officer points out the team that will stand by your side to get the job done. The 2 new agents nod their heads as the officer tips his hat. And there they stand, the trio of elite heroes, all set to begin their long and tough journey. Suddenly, he realizes his 2 friends are actually the people pretending to be his parents, and the story just got much more complicated. As the memory fades, we find ourselves back in that ridiculously fancy new apartment. The man, who isn't really John's father, stares out at Seoul while his partner asks, "Do you think John will fall for it?" He turns to her, his goofy tourist smile fading into the worried face of a man who is truly troubled. He softly wraps his arms around her and whispers, "There's no need to hurry. Getting him out of that nightmare for now is enough, so this whole situation is really a rescue mission." After using his big brain, Kong Jian has everyone's attention, especially Era, who is definitely watching him. Suddenly, he finds himself surrounded by a crowd of girls. Everyone is crowding around him, peppering him with questions one after another. They are dying to know his secret, certain he must be the son of a diplomat or some important figure from a faraway land. But this relentless questioning is wearing him down, proving that his combat training isn't enough to survive a barrage of social pressure. Right as he's about to give up, the crowd splits open like the Red Sea. And the one who steps forward is none other than the Queen Bee. She beamed with a super confident grin and said, "Hello, I'm Lyra." She asks if he is Kong Jian, but he just gives her the 1,000-yard stare because he is on high alert. His eyes are so sharp they can cut through anything, and he refuses to blink for anyone. The story jumps back to the night before, where Kang Jian isn't reading math but is instead watching his classmates like they are part of a secret mission. And who is the first file on his desk? You guessed it, the girl he just met, Liera. Just then, his father walked in with a new assignment instead of snacks. He slams a huge pile of papers onto the floor, revealing more targets to memorize than anyone expected. So keep your eyes sharp and take note. Kang Jian's reply was so cold and robotic that his dad couldn't stand it and demanded he change his tone. His dad gives him the top mission rule. Blend in and act like any normal kid. He finally says yes with a glare that could curdle milk. Now he's back in the classroom, eyes locked on his target with the mission flashing in his mind. Liera is the #1 priority. She's not just a regular classmate. She's the daughter of the chairman of the Samyung Group, the biggest and most powerful company in the whole country. And the mission is easy. Sneak up on her, win her confidence, and then slip away with her family's business secrets. Era finally spoke up, clearly annoyed and asking, "Are you always this quiet?" He was just about to speak when she stopped him cold by sliding her phone across the desk. Kang Jian just stares at the phone, completely lost, as if someone asked him for his Instagram and he has no clue what that even is. Noticing his puzzled look, she takes another shot at connecting, guessing he might be chatting on a different app called O-Book. Changing tactics, she holds out her hand and asks for your phone, so she can get your number. And that's where his years of brutal training finally failed him, because the man is completely glitching out. The girls can't believe it because you don't even have a phone. Kang Jian is soaking wet, and his secret life as a regular high school student is totally ruined. Era stares at him with pure disgust, asking if he's lost his mind like a caveman. She looks let down and simply turns to walk away, meaning the mission is a failure. The entire class falls quiet for a heartbeat. Then suddenly everyone starts whispering and giggling. Rumors run wild through the village with no phones or Instagram to slow them down, proving his parents must be incredibly strict. As Era and her crew ran away, he was left all alone at his desk. He's gripping his fist tight under the desk while his mind screams, and right now the only thing he can think of is to grab his phone. No matter how well he trains, he's no match for the final boss of teenage social life. After school, he trudged home feeling totally defeated, but then he froze in his tracks as he sensed something was up. Look at that whole fleet of supercars parked outside the school. That's how the other half lives. He notices another student walking by, a tall girl with long dark hair. His eyes go wide, realizing he's found another target. As his secret mission file opens, he marks her as top priority, but a huge bodyguard suddenly steps in front of them to block his way. The bodyguard is a true force, staring him down with the unshakable strength of a mountain. He calls out "Miss," and leads the girl toward a waiting black limousine. And just then, who should stroll by but Era heading to her ride. She springs into her light blue Rolls-Royce, and the long line of fancy cars begins to roll away. As Kang Jian stares at this crazy show of wealth, a hand suddenly covers his eye. "Just move out of the way." A red-haired punk glares and smirks, thinking you're pretty annoying. And naturally, another huge bodyguard arrives to walk this kid to his bright yellow G-Wagon. Kang Jian stands there feeling like a stranger in a world of super rich people. Right as he's about to leave, another student shouts out to him. A new guy named Zhang Dongwu walks in, proudly boasting that his family is powerful and that he's even the grandson of the Minister of Justice. Dongwu saw Kang Jian all by himself and decided to drive him home, which was quite a bold thing to do. Kang Jian thought for a moment, and when Dongwu got nervous and backed out, Kang Jian surprised him by accepting the offer, which made Dongwu thrilled. As Dongwu sits in a shiny white Audi, he asks where he lives. Kang Jian calmly answers, "Bampo Blue Tower," leaving Dongwu stunned, since it's one of the priciest neighborhoods. But as they introduce themselves, a new friendship could be starting. Dongwu even asks his driver to drop Kang Jian off before going to the next stop. They ride in quiet for a while until Dongwu starts shifting nervously, clearly itching to ask something. He finally gathers the courage to ask about that crazy math problem from class. "Wow, how did you do that?" Dongwu asks with wide eyes, while Kang Jian just stares back, a little puzzled by the question. Dongwu waves his hands and apologizes for acting strange, then gushes about how amazing it was to figure everything out in his head. Then he shyly admits, "Actually, I'm really bad at math," and Kang Jian instantly spots his chance to help, leaving Dongwu completely stunned. "Really?" Dongwu's face lights up like a beacon when Kang Jian says yes. Dongwu is thrilled, and Kang Jian thinks things are going perfectly until Dongwu asks the scary question about not having a phone or Instagram, which instantly ruins the mood. Meanwhile, inside that light blue Rolls-Royce, Era chats with the driver, Secretary Yang. She tells him to find out everything there is to know about the new student. Secretary Yang suggests bringing in the corporate strategy team, but Era quickly shuts that idea down. She explained, "I just need to find someone I can work with, and her secretary instantly understood, promising to have the full report on her desk by tonight. Era peeks out the window with a curious smirk, thinking, this is getting interesting. When Kangjian finally gets home, his mom beams with a huge, happy smile and says, "Oh, son, you're back." He just stares at her with a completely empty look in his eyes. She mocks him for not cheering, "I'm home," like a normal kid, while his dad peeks over his newspaper looking worried as Kangjian stammers a greeting. His mother just laughs and pats him on the back. "Good job, my son. Go to your room quickly," he said, looking very confused but letting her playfully push him toward his bedroom. He pulls open the door and finds his whole room has been completely changed, with a brand new desk, a fresh bed, and a keyboard all set up. He can't believe how expensive this must be, but his mom just laughs it off. "It's all needed. Never forget that our family is loaded with money." Kangjian's eyes immediately fix on his brand new desk. "You've got a laptop, a tablet, and a brand new smartphone." He grabs the phone right away, and you can see his mind working hard to solve the problem. He looks at his mom and quietly asks the big question, "Do you know what Insta is?" His mom is completely lost, but then his dad steps in with a super confident grin. "That's a trick I'll teach you," he says, giving a sparkling thumbs up. Kangjian stares in horror while his mom just giggles at her husband's boomer energy. Later that night, we see Era running hard, giving it everything she has left in her. She comes to a dead halt as Secretary Yang suddenly pops up from thin air, clutching a file out for her. She grabs the clipboard and finds a file inside on Steve Kong, who is the father of Kangjian. The report is crazy because he's a Korean-American boss of a huge crypto company worth at least $30 billion. It's not just his past that's making waves. His security firm is exploding in the US and Japan, and now China is taking notice too. Era snaps the folder shut with a thoughtful frown on her face. Her secretary wonders if he should keep digging for more clues. She tosses it back with a confident smirk, saying there's no need, and it's clear he's someone she can easily get along with. The next morning, our boy Kangjian is just chilling at his desk, showing off his brand new phone. He lets out a small noise to catch their eye. Aurora shoots him a curious look from where she sits. Kangjian feels her eyes locked on him, but he just crosses his arms and waits to see what she will do next. And then, boom, their eyes lock on each other from across the room. With the tension hanging thick, he smoothly pulls out a brand new smartphone as a gift from his parents to hold her attention. Era's attention snaps right away, her smile grows wide, and you know the bait is working. His new friend Jang Dongwoo leans in, buzzing with excitement as he points out that you just bought a phone. But the happy feelings don't last, because suddenly a huge shadow drops right over them. A hand slams hard onto Dongwoo's shoulder, and the redhead yells, "What is this?" He's wearing that nasty smirk, like he's already gotten the drop on you too. Poor Dongwoo is sweating through his shirt, stuttering that Kangjian is just helping him with his math. At the same time, a guy with slicked back hair just stands there, watching the scene with a totally unimpressed look. Kangjian stays completely quiet while carefully studying these new rivals. The red-haired punk laughs off the excuse, shouting to study hard, but I still have business with him. He pushes Dongwoo's face down on the desk, slides into his chair, and acts like a real jerk. Now these two fearless fighters are closing in on Kangjian, ready to trap him in a tight squeeze. Our boy just stares right back, completely unbothered by their scary faces, and honestly, that's the best part. He immediately spots Go Jin-so, the politician's son who dreams of becoming president. The other is Huang Wang, the heir to the huge Dijang group, and his crew are some serious power players. Kangjian spots his chance, flashes a friendly grin, and asks if he should teach them math too, but his offer just hangs there, while both of them stand frozen in shock. Jin-suk just scoffs and walks away, telling his friend to make sure this guy doesn't become annoying. Wang barks at the new transfer student, then instantly grabs Kangjian by the collar. He leans right into his face, his voice a low growl, and warns that the most important thing is knowing your place. "Keep quiet and stay hidden," he growls, squeezing his hands into fists. "Got it," he replies, and for a split second, all of Kangjian's training takes over as he instantly pictures the perfect move to fight back. In his mind, his hand moves so fast it looks like a blur, hitting Wang's throat with deadly accuracy. With just one hit, it's all over. The pretend hit happens without a sound and leaves no mess. That was a flawless strike from a trained killer. But the truth is, Wang just keeps repeating his threat, and I nod and say, "Got it," while Kangjian calmly puts a hand on Wang's arm and asks, "What does that mean?" With a polite smile. Wu Yung was totally confused and asked, "What?" right before feeling a sharp, crushing pressure slam into his arm. Kangjian's grip is like a steel vice, twisting Wang's wrist with insane force. Wu Yong begins to sweat profusely as the pain becomes too much to bear. Kang Jian bends his arm all the way back as if it's not even heavy. With the same friendly smile, Kang Jian asks, "Is this how you make friends around here?" But Jin So overhears the commotion, turns around looking super annoyed that his boy is getting handled. With fury and shame burning in his chest, Wang wrenches his arm free and swings a wild punch straight for Kang Jian's head. He bellows, "You little fool, are you trying to get yourself killed?" While Kang Jian simply stares at the incoming punch with a face as calm as still water. He isn't staring at the fist. He's looking straight at the security camera in the corner. And then we see a memory, a lesson from his dad. In South Korea, cameras are everywhere, his dad showed him, scrolling through live feeds from all over the city. With just a few clicks, his instructor teaches him to break into the whole school security system. He even brings up the feed for this very classroom, which is indeed yours. He rides his bike from the gym to the offices, the music hall, the library, and the sports field, keeping a sharp lookout at every single place he goes. His dad jokes that breaking the security is easy, while Kang Jian proudly calls him the top expert, only for his dad to quickly shut him down. "Stop talking that way and fix it right now." And as his last warning echoes in Kang Jian's ears, he whispers, "Remember, no violence, because everything is being recorded." Back in the present, Wang swings his fist right at his own face, but he simply leans out of the way. He slams his flat hands straight down onto the desk, hitting Wu Jing right in the gut. The hit is so powerful it knocks Wu Yong off guard, sending him stumbling backward. His attack was completely stopped before it could get anywhere. He stares in shock, absolutely furious at that guy. Right when things were about to go completely wild, Era's voice broke through the tension. She stands up with her friends and yells at Wu Yong for acting like a total punk. Gojin So watches from across the room, sure that this new kid doesn't know the rules. With a mean look, he says, then he needs to learn his lesson. But Era isn't finished, screaming at Wang to stop before he looks even more foolish. Wang stares right past her at Kang Jian, threatening to meet him later for a private showdown. Kang Jian isn't scared at all. He just grins back and asks, "When? Where? What a Chad?" Leaving Wu Jun so furious that he storms out of the classroom. Kang Jian kicked himself, realizing that this guy is a 4-star recruit and a prime target. He needs to win over their good side. But what on earth can he possibly do? Suddenly, a cheerful blonde English teacher walks in and spots the new student right away. As the teacher asks if he can keep up in her all-English class, Kang Jian is still worried about his mistake with Jin So. Kang Jian answers in perfect English without missing a beat, leaving the teacher stunned by his flawless accent. He spins a tale about attending an international school in New York to explain why he moved with his father for work. Dong Wu is so impressed that the teacher is thrilled to say his accent will help the entire class improve. Kang Jian feels pretty smug about this, you know. Era stares at him with fresh excitement, but Jin Silk and Wu Jiang just look sour. Now that everyone knows he's from New York, the girls are back at his desk in a huge crowd. Alright, time to start work, so he holds out his phone to the confused girls. But suddenly Era is right there and snatches it right from their hands. She grins and says, "This is from our company, you passed." Inside, Kang Jian throws a party because his plan worked perfectly and he has achieved total success. Era immediately starts scrolling through his social media, which is packed with photos of him and his fake family on wild vacations. She flicks through photos of them in Paris on a tropical beach and in Japan showing off their best moments. Looking at the photos, Era is totally convinced. It's such a warm and happy family. It's all a fake, but Kang Jian secretly cheers his team for their perfect digital disguise, even though we saw right through it. When the final bell rings and everyone else flees, he stays behind like a lone wolf in a sea of sheep. Outside, it's a car show for the super rich with a long line of fancy rides already waiting for the wealthy kids. Kang Jian stood there listening to his dad brag about a new car, but while all the other students walked by, he just waited there. Suddenly, Era turns to give him a friendly wave and says, "See you tomorrow," with a bright smile. As Era walks away, Kang Jian smiles to himself because she is finally listening, but he freezes when he realizes Huang Wuyong and Gojin So are right behind him, and this doesn't look good. A hand slams onto his shoulder, and it's Huang Wuzhong, who looks angry and growls that they have to go together. In a split second, Kang Jian quickly assesses everything around him. Suddenly, two fresh troubles stepped right into his life. Wang Wuong and Gojin Sok. Suddenly, a twist hits him. His mission isn't to fight them, but to bring them into his team. All right, but where are we going now?
Yan asks.
Waiting for them is a huge bodyguard standing right beside a yellow SUV. Wang just glares and yells for him to get in the car even though he's still begging nicely. Kang Jian isn't scared at all. He's thinking, perfect, this is my chance to win them over and finish the mission. So he silently plays along, walking right toward their car in a move that's pretty cool, but suddenly, Without warning, tires scream and a flashy red sports car zooms down the road. The car drifts sideways to a perfect stop right in front of them, blocking their path and leaving everyone frozen in shock. And suddenly, his dad bursts out of the driver's seat wearing a loud Hawaiian shirt, dark sunglasses, and waving his arms like a crazy man. "Son, I'm here to get you," he yells, completely unaware of the dangerous trouble he just stumbled into. Woo Young and Jin So were left frozen in place, their tough guy image completely shattered by this ridiculous scene. Kang Jian's face was pure horror, and you could almost feel the second-hand embarrassment. Dad is here, and his father shouts again, beaming with a grin that makes him look like the coolest guy in the world. Other students walk right past, eyes wide as they watch the total disaster in the middle of the street. Kang Jian tries to save his dignity by telling his dad he's just hanging out with friends, leaving Wang and Jinsok baffled while his dad beams with a huge thumbs up, thrilled to hear he made another friend. Right now, Kang Jian's soul has floated out of his body because the cringe is just too strong. He shoves his dad back into the car, screaming that he'll see him later at home, because he just wants all of this to finally be over. With one final roar from the engine, his dad spins the wheels and zooms away, leaving nothing but rubber marks and total confusion in his wake. Kang Jian lets out a long sigh as the disaster mobile vanishes down the street. Jin Suk shoots him a deadly glare and warns you that he really needs someone to show him the right way. And just like that, they all pile into Wang's SUV and speed off through the city. Kang Jian sits there quietly, likely wondering what kind of mess he's gotten himself into this time. The car finally rolls up to a massive, modern office building that looks nothing like a grimy back alley. He steps out and cranes his neck to read the sign. TJ Sports is here, and we're wondering exactly what's going on. Jin So tries to wave his bodyguard away, saying he's late and they should move, but the guard won't budge, reminding him that he is sworn to stay by Jin's side at all times. The bodyguard sighs with annoyance and follows them into the huge building. And inside, it's huge, there's even a full octagonal cage right in the middle. Kang Jian stands in the training center, watching the scene unfold and thinking, this is just getting interesting. A man in a tracksuit waves them over and says, "Cage 3 is all clean and waiting for you." Wu Yong barks to keep everyone out, and the other guy just bows and agrees, showing they clearly run the whole place. But then the guy leans in to whisper a quick plea for forgiveness to Kang Ji, promising he'll call an ambulance right away because he knows exactly what's about to happen. Wu Yong is getting so impatient he's shouting to see if the ambulance has arrived, while Bro stays calm and sure. Amidst all the noise, Kang Jian says nothing at all, just watching Wu Yong prepare for what's next. Suddenly, Wu Yong tears open his school shirt to reveal a body so strong it looks like he's made of steel. He buckled on a pair of red MMA gloves, shooting a deadly glare at Kang Jian as the fight was about to begin. From the balcony, Jin Sok smirks and remarks that it's been a long time since he's seen someone walk in here with such confidence. Kang Jian looked up at him and asked if he was really willing to fight that guy without showing any fear. Jin So bursts out laughing, ready to spar or fight by whatever name you choose, and daring you to bring it on. His laugh goes a little wild as he yells at Kang Jian to sign the waiver fast. Down on the floor, Wu Yong shoves a clipboard right into your face, pointing a finger straight at the spot where you need to sign. It's a waiver saying that if you get wrecked, you can't sue, which is standard for a beatdown, and as Kang Jian reads the terms, his eyes narrow and he starts thinking hard about what it means. He looks up, cool and calm, and asks if I want to sign right here. Jin Suk leans over the railing with a wicked grin, asking if you are scared. But Kang Jian just gives him a cold, calculating stare, leaving his face completely blank. Jin Suk's eyes sparkled with a twisted joy as he ordered, "Kneel and act like a dog, and maybe I'll let you go." Kang Jian didn't flinch at all. The threat meant nothing to him, and he stood completely unfazed. For the first time, Jin Suk's smile wavers as he mutters, "Why aren't you reacting?" while thinking this guy is weird. Kang Jian turned to the cage and asked the most chilling question. "Are there really no cameras in here?" Jin Suk's smug grin vanishes instantly, leaving him stunned by that simple question. Even Wu Yong, who was ready to jump into the cage, is confused as he gives Kang Jian a tired sigh and asks if he's really signing the waiver just to make this happen. Jinsk snaps back to his senses and bursts into hysterical laughter, mocking the fool for daring to doubt our Wang, the national champion who is about to crush you. Kang Jian shrugs off the insult, shoves the clipboard back, and demands a signature from a glare so icy it could freeze fire, announcing that the tables have turned while Huang Wuzhang bounces in the ring, looking battered but acting like he's going to win big. Right in front of him, our boy Kang Jian quietly fixes his gloves and keeps a cool, unbothered expression. Wu Yong starts talking without thinking, leaving a kid staring at his frozen face while the bully says his usual lines. The two face off, with Wu Jing bouncing around like a kid who ate too much candy while Kang Jian stands perfectly still, making the scene hilarious on the outside, But inside Kong Jian's head, his supercomputer is firing up to find the best way to handle this tricky situation. He runs a quick simulation, testing a devastating punch right to Wang's temple that would surely end it all. And no, that counts as a fail. We used a bit too much force, and while we're trying to teach a lesson, we certainly don't want to send him to meet his ancestors. Okay, next option. A vicious body blow, cracking ribs and drawing blood. That's pretty metal. Nope, that won't work. A jab to the eye was too much, a knee to the ribs was a definite no, and that crippling leg kick was just out of the question. He can't afford to kill or permanently hurt the chairman's son. That's just bad for business. He's completely stuck trying to teach a wealthy kid without accidentally starting a worldwide disaster. Wang finally strikes, firing a quick jab that hovers just inches from Kong Jian's face, who doesn't even flinch. He tries a fancy spinning kick, but Kong Jian slides out of the way as if it were nothing. Wu Yong's eyes go wide with shock, and it looks like he's about to see a giant error message in his head. From the railing, Gojin Sok and his bodyguard stand frozen, their faces showing total shock. Wu Yong steps back to act casual as you show off your new strength. Kong Jian stands stone-faced and silent, and his quiet intensity is starting to make Wu Yong feel truly uneasy. The silence finally breaks, and Wu Yong's clenched jaw and sneering smile show just how angry he's getting. "What's with that look?" he shouts, charging forward as clumsy as a runaway train. Kong Jian slapped him right in the face with almost no effort, and just like that, bam. He just flexes his fingers, completely unfazed by the attack that falls like a feather against a mountain. Standing on the balcony, Jinsok and his man stared in shock, as if they had just seen a ghost and couldn't believe their eyes. Wu Jiang starts shaking as a storm of pure rage and fear crosses his face, making it clear he is having the worst day imaginable. Kong Jian slowly clenched his fist and narrowed his eyes, signaling that playtime was officially over. As Wu Yong loses his temper and yells, "Want to die or something?" a sharp backhand across his face silences him instantly. The heavy blow knocks Wu Yong backward, leaving him completely stunned and wondering how he could have been hit so hard. Before he could even recover, Kong Jian spun around and slammed a hard open palm strike right into the side of his head. Wu Jing's eyes roll back as he crashes to the floor, ending the battle before anyone can do anything about it. Jin Suk and his guard stood frozen with their jaws dropped, completely stunned by what they had just seen. Kong Jian looks up at them, noting that his terrifyingly easygoing approach means there won't be any major damage. He spins around, steps out of the ring, and if there's nothing left to watch, I'm gone. Just another ordinary Tuesday for our hero. But Jin Suk refuses to let them go, yelling from the balcony, "Stay right there," as the mystery suddenly takes a sharp turn. A moment later, Jin Sak and his bodyguard rush onto the main floor with wild, excited grins to intercept him, only for Jin Suk to shock everyone by declaring that from now on, he is his right-hand man. Kong Jian is totally confused because his right-hand man is just trying to get home to play video games. Jin Suk turned to his bodyguard, practically buzzing with excitement as he asked if this guy was really strong, while the bodyguard just stared blankly like he was hoping for a raise. Kong Jian mumbles that he still doesn't get what that means while being welcomed into the club. Jinsk sauntered back, puffing his chest out to brag that being my right-hand man is the best job in the world, and then asked if I knew who his dad is. He wraps a friendly arm around Kong Jian's shoulders. "Let's go, because as a celebration, I'm treating you to a nice dinner." Jin's laughs so wildly it sounds like a total maniac. Kong Jian's all flustered, but that's perfect because everything is going exactly as planned. Later that night, Kong Jian walks back into his family's huge, fancy apartment and tells everyone he's home. His dad asks if he made some good friends, and the tired Kong Jian replies yes, which is technically true. His mom happily asks about dinner, but he says he already ate with his new friends. As he walks away, his parents share a quiet look of worry. Back in his room, Kong Jian collapsed onto his bed, utterly spent from a long day of scheming and fighting. He lets out a heavy sigh, realizing the mission is way harder than he thought. His mind jumps back to dinner, where Gajin Sok proudly showed off the fancy restaurant, and it was pretty cool, wasn't it? Jinsk says it's a family favorite and encourages him to dig in. The food is amazing, artist, and now Kong Jian's world has stopped as he takes his first bite. The taste was so strong he couldn't even say a word. Jinsk bursts out laughing at his wild reaction, proving our boy has never eaten at a fancy place before. Watching Jin Suk's huge, friendly grin, Kong Jian can't help but wonder if this is really the crazy guy from school. Jinsk leans in and explains that being his right-hand man is actually pretty simple. His only duty is to smash anyone who dares to climb up, a simple, direct, and slightly evil role that I really like. But Kong Jian insists he never bullies the weak. He says a specific name, Dong Wu. Kong Jian is sure he's talking about Zhang Dong Wu, their classmate. The The thought that Dongwoo is weak makes Jin-suk laugh again, leaving our boy totally baffled and wondering what's going on. Jin-suk admits that in middle school he was actually a fan of Dongwoo, though he says so very politely. Seeing Kong Jian stare blankly, he clarifies, "A lackey. You don't know what a bread shuttle is." Jin-suk's tone turns serious as he explains that Dongwoo's family is the most powerful legal family in the country and his dad is the chief prosecutor. He admits this happened before his own dad became the party boss, and back then, he had to walk on eggshells whenever Dongwoo was around. This shocking discovery about the school's secret hierarchy leaves Kong Jian shaken, revealing that the high school food chain is truly cruel. Jin-suk put it exactly right. That is what South Korea is all about. The strength you have comes from your parents, even if that truth feels harsh. The flashback fades, and Kong Jian sits up on his bed, feeling the heavy weight of his new life pressing down on him. He thinks to himself once more, this mission is really not easy. And honestly, he has a point. Suddenly, a knock bangs on the door. And there they are, his real parents peering in with those classic worried looks, pretending to be his fake mom and dad. They all asked, "What's wrong, son? You can talk to us." But he quickly shut them down, pretending it's nothing in that classic tough guy way. Yeah, they aren't buying it for a second. That shared look says it all. Back alone, Kong Jian feels a sudden pang of doubt, realizing that navigating a South Korean high school is far more chaotic and tricky than even the most intense spy mission. He balls up his hands, admitting that trying to fit in is a real pain in the neck. But then his dad stops pretending and snaps, telling him to stop feeling sorry for himself because he forgot who his friend really is, which stings. That's all it takes, because Kong Jian snaps into action like a soldier, apologizes, and vows to get back on track. And just like that, the fake parents are beaming with fake smiles once more. Look at him, our boy has his serious game face back on. He keeps grinding and slamming the laptop as he furiously searches for local secrets like lackey, otaku, and MBTI to finally get the hang of the game. He tells himself he's the top agent from the shadow unit and makes a big promise that he'll never fail his mission, then tells himself to calm down. While his friends peek through the door and giggle like proud parents, the whole silly situation just feels ridiculous. The next day at school, a super nervous Dongwoo shuffles up to Kong Jian, trying to figure out how to ask about yesterday without directly saying it. Kong Jian just sneers and calls him out, knowing full well that Dongwoo used to be the school bully. Dongwoo starts to panic, but Kong Jian cuts him off with a cool line, saying, "Don't worry, I don't need shuttles." After flashing a cheesy grin and giving a thumbs up to seal their friendship, Dongwoo is baffled while Kong Jian thinks he's super smooth, only for Dongwoo to quickly remind him that he isn't. And by the time class ends, Dongwoo feels relieved nothing went wrong and keeps a close eye on Jin-suk as he walks past. Kong Jian leans back coolly, insists they become friends, and leaves me wondering how he still doesn't get it. As if summoned by the devil, a shout calls out Jin-suk's name and waves him over. Kong Jian walks up with a smile so fake it looks like plastic, flashes a V sign, and thanks you for the dinner. Jeans isn't laughing, but everyone else, including Era, stares in shock like they just saw a ghost. The entire class freezes in shock as that crazy guy casually offers to buy the school's top bully dinner, while Jin-suk stays silent and simply points to the empty seat by his side, which everyone knows is Huang Woo-jang's throne. Then he smacks him with the test while asking why he isn't sitting, and tells everyone that the pressure is on. Kong Jian's mind clicks into place as he realizes this isn't an invitation but an offer to step up and take the second-in-command seat. And without missing a beat, he plops down, crosses his arms, and acts like he owns the place, which is the ultimate Chad move. Jin-suk cracks a smirk as he feels impressed, while Kong Jian does a secret victory dance because his master plan is finally set in motion. The lecture drags on, yet every single gaze is fixed on that one empty chair. Hang Woo-jun has gone missing and is now listed as officially absent. Jeans leans in close and whispers to Woo-young that he should have been tough enough to keep going even after getting beaten up. While we were away, Woo-young got absolutely crushed by a wooden pole at TJ Sports. The man is yelling at him, furious that he wasted all that money getting Wu Jing into the class only for him to mess it up. And here's the twist. The man delivering the beating is Huang Jia, a powerful CEO, while Wu Yong's own father is the one earning Dad of the Year awards. But Jia is on a rampage, screaming that Jin-suk's dad is running for president. So Wu Yong has to get close to him no matter what it takes. He shouts colorful insults at him, demanding he become Jin-suk's best friend or else be kicked out. And when the confused Wu Jang finally limps away, Jin-suk lets out a loud roar. Now that his son is gone, Josko turns his focus to his secretary to get back to work. He is desperate to learn everything about the company that belongs to the father of the kid who beat up his son. Yep, he's talking about Kong Jian. The secretary says Kong Jian's dad supposedly runs a crypto company named 11 Coin, but we all know that's just a fake setup, don't we? And it looks like the company is well off, so Jaw's eyes narrow. He invites us to eat, but his offer feels more like a trap than a kind gesture. The secretary asks where, and Joel's chilling reply, right here in this gym, makes it clear that dinner is going to be anything but nice. The secretary hears the message loud and clear. He gives a small bow and the danger is clear. The Jaw was seething with rage, muttering curses at the punk who dared to block his path, proving he had serious anger problems. Just as the day at school is winding down, a happy arrow waves a cheerful goodbye to Kang Jin. She steps up to her fancy car, only to find a whole team of men in suits waiting for her. Down the street, Jin-sook's bodyguard is standing by, waiting. Suddenly Jin-sook asks what he means, while Jin-sook smirks like he's sharing a secret. He promises to see him tomorrow and walks out with the Mohawk guy, leaving our guy totally confused while worrying about his parents, only to realize that the North Korean spy isn't his real family after all. His confusion vanishes instantly as his dad screeches to a halt in a wildly flashy sports car, screaming for him to get inside. Kang Jin shuts his eyes and sighs, clearly fed up with the guy's wild overacting. Later that night, the fake family enjoys a dinner that's as normal as it gets for 3 spies. Right then, the doorbell goes off. A man in a suit stands there, looking perfectly professional. He calmly introduces himself as being from the Daejeon group, and he smells like trouble. Mom and Dad's faces instantly drop in worry as they rush to ask what he needs. Suddenly, Kang Jin puts the pieces together. Daejeon group is Wooong's family, and they're the ones the kid beat up. This secretary ignores pleasantries and jumps straight to a serious accusation. Your son took a beating to our young master. Bam. The entire family stops dead in their tracks as a cold bead of sweat slips down Kang Jin's face, proving he is completely caught red-handed. The secretary calls back to say her boss isn't looking for trouble. He just wants a friendly meal with his dad. But I've seen enough movies to know exactly what that kind of friendly meal really means. But our dad is a pro, folks, who plays the clueless parent with a laugh while calling it just a minor kid scrap, delivering an absolutely Oscar-worthy performance. The secretary insists the invitation is for right now, so the surprisingly confident dad agrees to go. Our hero watches him leave, his cool act completely gone, looking now like a worried kid who is totally out of his depth. Just as the door shuts, Dad's mood flips instantly. His eyes turn hard as stone, and he gives one strict command. Stay home. As the door clicks shut, Kang Jin and his mom stare at it, swapping their fake smiles for real worry. Meanwhile, we dive into the dark headquarters of the Hang family at TJ Sports. Inside, the secretary guides Dad down a hallway to the arena where our final boss, Wong Jaw, is hanging out by the MMA cage like he owns the place, and honestly, he does. Jaw jumps right into the fight with a grin that says, I'm the bad guy. Tells us his kid got hurt bad by your brat, then hops down from the cage trying to look scary. So he asks, what are you going to do about it? But Dad acts way too cool, just smiling and asking what the big bad CEO wants. They demand you send your spoiled kid away so they can let this go. Dad just chuckles, scratching his head and admitting it's tough since his wife worked so hard to get him into Korea's best school. Jaw's patience is gone, so he steps in to use his big size to scare Dad. It's the old trick where someone acts like they're stronger just to scare you into backing down. But as Jaw's face twists with rage, Dad's friendly smile vanishes completely. His eyes turn icy cold as he warns, don't do anything you'll regret. But Jaw ignores him and throws a massive hook that hits Dad right in the face with a loud, damn. Dad's lip is split, but get this, it is Jackal who is screaming in rage. You bastard, he shouts, then hits the guy who threw the first punch with a few hard blows to the stomach, watching as Dad stumbles back and falls to his knees while the other man cracks his knuckles with a smug grin. I'll let it go for today. That's quite generous of him. But he's not finished, so he grabs Dad's hair and pulls his head up. Hand over your child right now, or he'll snarl that he'll throw you out of the country. Then he just bangs his dad's head onto the floor hard, and yells, whoa, buddy, calm down. And with that, Jishal walks away, telling his secretary to throw money at the problem as if paying it will fix a broken face. Soon enough, the secretary hands Dad a check for $10 million to pay for his wrecked car. Dad looks like he's seen a ghost, yet he just glares at that check like it's a piece of garbage. As the secretary slides into his car, he delivers a classic villain warning. Don't even think about calling the cops. We own them, he smirks, but Dad just replies with a deadpan. I won't do anything stupid, which carries a thick double meaning. The secretary waves the check toward Dad, and he grabs it quickly. He stares as they drive away, his face burning with fury, while the thugs in the car laugh, completely unaware that they've just crossed a dangerous line. When Dad got home, he found his family waiting up, looking worried. The air feels heavy with tension, and the moment they spot his bruised face, Kang Jin's eyes go wide. Seeing the little boy's face, he realizes it's all his fault and rushes over to ask if the kid is okay. but the dad just holds up a hand and says, "Not now, kid. I'm on a roll." Then we see Mom, and her worried face hardens into a terrifying, silent fury. Dad sinks into his office chair, which looks just like a NASA control room, and starts pounding out keys like he's lost his mind. His face twisted into pure revenge, promising that messing with the wrong guy would bring deep regret, and now it's time for some hacking. The next morning, another sunny day greeted the evil corporate tower, making everything look perfectly normal. Our boy Jay Shaw sits in his office with a cup of tea, completely carefree. Make the most of this while it's still here, friend. Just as he found peace, the secretary bursts in screaming that the world is ending and the company is in big trouble. Yahello is just annoyed, clueless about what's happening, and demanding to know why his morning is being ruined. The secretary, who looks like he's about to have a heart attack, drops the bombshell that the company servers are completely down. Yahello asks about the IT team, but they're just as stuck since their computers are dead and the portal has gone down. With the final blow that turns his face pale, refund requests start pouring in. Once the team was back at work, the phone kept ringing nonstop. Joel finally speaks up, and you can be sure it's not good news. The CEO is in big trouble and says someone is on the phone, while Yahello just looks annoyed and wonders what's next. The biggest bomb dropped when the bank froze our accounts. And suddenly, there was that look of pure, unfiltered panic we'd been waiting for. Night falls and Joel sit alone in his huge, shadowy office, looking shattered as he broods over the wreckage of his company. He sweats and shivers, begging the empty room for a sign of hope. "Listen, friend, you're just talking to yourself because this has ended." He was muttering about the bank's words when a voice suddenly answered from the shadows, saying, "Well, hello there. Oh, it's Mom." And Jaw immediately explodes into a scream about how she bypassed his security, only for someone to remind him that his security is the least of his worries. She gives him a small smirk while I put the security team and the cameras to a deep, icy sleep that will last a very long time. Jaw tries to look tough, but Mom isn't having it and grabs him by the collar, sending him flying with one punch. Dazed, he looks up to see her sitting on his desk, staring down at him like he's trash, and when she asks if he knows who he messed with, he doesn't have a clue. Joel is sweating so hard she's dripping while explaining that she'd normally just kill him. And right at cue, she pulls out a syringe. It seems she promised to stop killing, which must be a lucky day for Jaw. Instead of dying, she has a secret plan of her own. She presses the needle to his throat, whispers that she'll wake him up 3 years after our John graduates, and then gives him the shot. The darkness swallowed his world until the only thing left was her cold, determined stare. A silent warning that you do not mess with this family. The next morning, Kang Jian gets ready for school while his parents are busy cleaning up. But he stops at the door to take one final look behind him. And yup, his dad still looks like he just fought a brick wall for 10 rounds, covered in bandages. But Mom is just pure sunshine and rainbows, waving him goodbye as if nothing bad ever happened. This guilt sends our boy spiraling down until he tries to apologize for the trouble he caused. His mom just giggles it off, telling you not to worry. Mom and Dad handled everything, which sounds pretty safe and not scary at all, doesn't it? Next, we jump right to Seoul International High School. Inside, Era is hanging out with her friends, in charge of the group, right before class begins. She sees someone across the room and a sly smirk curls her lips. Her target is Kang Jian, who is just hanging out and looking way too relaxed for someone in his spot. He's worried that Korean parents will get involved in everything, and honestly, you're in way over your head. Suddenly, Gojin slides in like a splash of hot gossip. He leans in to drop a bombshell. Woo Jun's dad has collapsed and his company is falling apart. Kang Jian's eyes went wide with shock as he started thinking hard about it. Jean Silk whispered that it sounded like a stroke or a heart attack, something truly serious. And suddenly, his mom's eerie words from that morning flash back into his mind. He shakes his head and tries to deny it, insisting that they wouldn't do that, right? Just as he's about to panic, Era suddenly pops up to ask what he's doing this weekend. She brushes off the tension and invites him to her birthday party, which is just perfect timing. You can practically feel the daggers in the air as Jinsk stares across the room, clearly not happy. Kang Jian looks totally stunned and asks about the birthday party like he's never heard the words before. Era just smirks with total confidence. "Sure, it's my birthday, you're coming, right?" He agrees with a smile. She waves goodbye, and she'll text him the details. As Era walks away, Jin So just watches them with a blank face, and the story gets even more mysterious. Just then, Huang Woo-young shuffled into the classroom looking utterly defeated, all his former arrogance gone. Era tries to ask about his dad, but Wu Jing simply ignores her, walks right past without saying a word, and sinks into his seat. He looks like a ghost because the fight drained him, while Kang Jian watches and realizes Kang Jian's parents must have handled everything. Later that day, Kang Jian stood all by himself at the crosswalk. Yeah, his dad is probably too sick to pick him up today. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him and snaps him right out of his thoughts. He spins around and finds 3 of his friends standing there. One of them asks if he is going home by himself. He knows those guys from class, but they're talking to him and that shocks him because he really needs some friends. Since they're all riding the bus anyway, they decide to just head out together. Our boy, the life of the party, just nods along in a clumsy way. The girl who spoke up introduced herself as Shin Yuna and her friends as Seo Dongjun and John Iju. Iju happily admits she wanted to meet him, leaving Kang Jian so flustered he can only mumble, "Nice to meet you," until Yuna asks where he lives and they both freeze when he says Banu Blue Tower. Our boy stands there as confused as a lost puppy, knowing absolutely nothing about the chaos everyone else is panicking over. She screams that he has to be loaded because that's the fanciest apartment in town. He just claims it belongs to his parents. Well, since their crowded schools are in the same area, they can ride the same bus. Then she spots a brilliant idea. There's a wonderful place to eat tteokbokki nearby, and she asks if we want to go. Kang Jian repeats the name, tteokbokki, sounding almost annoyed that the guy clearly doesn't know what it is. Yuna is so excited that she promises him he's going to love it. After a short bus ride, they finally reach the legendary Deserang snack bar. Inside, they happily order just about everything on the menu. It was a real feast fit for a high school king or queen. Everyone dives right in and can't stop talking about how amazing the food tastes. While Yuna chews on her kamap, she sees that Kang Jian is just staring at his food. She leans in close and asks the big question. "Don't tell me this is your first time eating tapenade." He quickly denies it and pops a piece in his mouth to prove it, but that was a huge mistake. The instant the spice hits his tongue, it feels like a freight train slamming into him, making his eyes nearly pop out. He truly breathes fire, folks, because the artist actually drew flames shooting from his mouth. Yu and Dong Jun lose their minds, laughing hard at his pain. He frantically snatches up a cup of water and gulps it down to extinguish the raging fire. After Yu pulls himself together, she admits she was shocked that he agreed to hang out with them. Dong Zhen says that since he moved on, he's only ever hung out with the wealthy and powerful kids. Iju explains that even though they are in the same special class, they are worlds apart socially. Kang Jian is so lost that Dong Jun spells out the way for him. Compared to the fancy elite circles of Era or Jinsuk, their small group is just plain folks. But he won't let it go, and she springs forward to proudly declare that Yuna still holds the top spot at the school. Yuna just waves it off, claiming her top spot is only because the real geniuses are already studying abroad. Kang Jian's jaw drops as the system error plays out right before his eyes, proving his mission intel about these kids was completely wrong. They were invisible to him until the truth hit him hard. They were just ordinary South Korean students, not the targets he feared. But right when he realizes the truth, a taunting voice interrupts him from the doorway. A bunch of students in fancy uniforms strutted in, with one sneering at us like they were rich outsiders messing around in our neighborhood. Kang Jian doesn't even blink, just staring right back at them like nothing is happening. The boss grumbles that people are hogging the room even though it's nearly empty, proving he's just a bully. Yuna and Iju look scared as they face this big fight, but Kang Jian isn't impressed. As he saw the smirk, a bully stepped right up to his face and demanded, "Hey, if someone asks you a question, just answer." And just like that, his playful smirk vanishes into a frozen, deadly stare because the game is finally up. The local bully squad leader shoves right up to Kang Jian's face, demanding to know why he's being ignored. Kang Jian simply locks eyes with him, delivering that classic anime look that says he isn't even bothered in the slightest. While his friend Dong Jun sweats like he's in a sauna, trying to get everyone out before things get out of hand. But of course, it is never that easy, so when Kang Jian tries to leave, the bully leader suddenly stands in his way. He wears a smug smirk and asks, "Oh, you thought you could just walk away?" "Nope, not happening, my friend." While poor Dong Jun stammers, trying to explain they were just being polite and giving up the table, but the bully leans in and says, "You guys look rich, do you not?" Our boy Kang Jian stayed silent with that same unreadable look on his face, making you wonder if he even has any emotions left. Finally, the demand comes out, "Buy us some food, the classic shakedown, how original." He clutches the terrified Dong Jun's shoulder as the poor guy looks like he's about to pass out. Just as things were about to get serious, a hand slammed down hard on the bully's wrist. And there he is, our quiet hero finally taking a step. Kang Jian stares him down with a look so cold it freezes fire, then slaps him with the ultimate Ono reverse card and demands to know if we're broke. You can see the gears grinding to a halt in the bully's brain, because he was not expecting that comeback. Even his sidekick is shocked to find that international high isn't just for nerds, admitting he's never met a nerd with any backbone before. But Kang Jian doesn't mind. His eyes remain fixed on the leader, who quickly regains his cool, smirks, and explains how a little bit of tough talk usually gets allowance money easily. But Kang Jian, with a small smirk, corrects him. You aren't begging like poor people, you're just stealing like ordinary robbers. The curly-haired one wasn't too happy about that. He puffs up and growls, but he just wants to pay for his food. Kang Jian's friends are panicking because everything is going wrong. The bully decides to take things further, claiming Kang Jian made such a huge scene that they must move this outside, which is just classic behavior. But then Yuna stepped forward with a 50,000 bill in her hand, bringing the voice of reason right into the middle of the chaos. She tries to fix things by apologizing and explaining that Kang Jian is new and doesn't understand, basically asking everyone not to hurt her innocent friend. The bully just laughs in Kang Jian's face, saying he looked foolish for letting a girl handle his own fight, making all his cool points disappear. But Kang Jian won't let it happen, so he gently pushes her hand down because his heroic instincts are taking over. He gives her the classic reassurance, "Don't worry, nothing will happen," which might just be his famous last words. He turns back to the bullies and drops the biggest flex imaginable, boasting that his family is rich and lives on the royal floor of Banu Blue Tower. And just like that, you can see the dollar signs sparkle in their eyes as their smug faces twist into greedy ones. His friends just stand there totally confused, having no clue what kind of crazy 5D chess moves our guy is making. And then for the grand finale, he pulls out a serious stack of $50,000 in cash. He spreads the money wide with a grin, basically saying, "Ready to talk now?" The bullies are totally hooked, and you don't even need to speak when that much cash is sitting right there. So they all head out to a quiet back alley, the perfect spot with no cameras for a friendly chat. The bullies are puzzled by his confidence, but hey, free money is free money, so who's going to say no? While Kang Jian stands there, his friends huddle together in the back, clearly wishing they had made different choices. Our boy is quietly figuring out the smartest way to take down this whole crew without getting too crazy, especially since he's got his school friends right there with him. The leader cracks his knuckles and delivers his famous opening line. "Do you know who we are? Just as you thought you knew what was happening, it turns out they're actually the boxing team from Seoul Sports High School." And with that, he swings the first punch and misses. Everyone sips in shock while Kang Jian looks disappointed, asking, "You were an athlete?" and then smiling with delight at the disrespect. His friend's jaw drops in shock as Kang Jian strikes back with a sudden, brutal counter before the boxer can even react. Bam! The hit is so powerful that his face crumples and he goes out cold from just one punch. The boxer crashes to the floor while the whole crew freezes in shock, whispering over and over that it only took one single punch. The guy with curly hair finally wakes up and screams like he's gone crazy. But wait, he orders his men to hold their ground, and instead of charging, he suddenly asks, "Do you know Wu Yong?" Kang Jian's eyes go wide because he recognizes the name Wang Wu Yong. The bully grinned, and I remembered the days we ran with the same crew, wondering if he'd finally trained you up yet. Kang Jian is confused, but the genius presents a new deal. Pay 500,000 a month. Then we'll leave your school alone, since my friend is trying to set up protection after they just got absolutely destroyed. Kang Jian can't help but wonder, is this guy actually real, or is he the dumbest bully alive? The bully cracks his knuckles and offers to help him think it over with a few punches, which is pretty generous. He charges in, a wild grin on his face, dancing through the air like a butterfly while ready to sting like a bee. Kang Jian's eyes widen for a heartbeat as he realizes just how foolish they are. But then his face sets like stone and it's time to go. He zips through their slow and clumsy blows like a blur. The first guy lunges forward and throws a punch so big it looks like it could happen from a mile away. While Kang Jian moves in with ease from the sidelines, his friends watch in wide-eyed shock and fear as he crushes them. Yuna looks so worried she peeks just once and gasps in surprise. Kang Jian stepped forward and blocked the bully with his foot, without even breathing hard. Kang Jian just looks down at him with a smirk, asking, "Really? That's all you've got?" Before the bully snaps back and screams the final insult any loser has left, "You're asking for it." It's too late for threats because Kang Jian's foot is already on its way to his face, which is the end. Alright, Kang Jian is about to land the final blow. Suddenly, a loud shout makes them all spin around. "Oh, sirens! The cops are here!" One of the thugs on the ground yells, shouting for everyone to scatter. The thugs shove past the cop and bolt, but Kang Jian just watches the mess with zero worry, even pulling out his phone and tossing it like a pro pitcher. Whack! The phone strikes the back of his head and sends him flying, landing a critical blow. Stunned and frozen, he can only stare back in shock as the police surround him, making for one terrible day. Kang Jian just stares with the calmest face ever as the cops surround them and round everyone up. Not long after, At the police station, Kong Jian and the bully just stare each other down in a silent contest. The air was so heavy with tension it felt like you could slice it open with a blade. Meanwhile, the officer grills Shin Yuna and her friends as they frantically try to prove they were the ones being forced to pay for a shakedown. The cop turns to the bully and asks if he really did it, warning that extortion is a serious crime. But the guy just leans back, acts dumb, and claims they're friends who went to the same cram school and he was just asking for a meal. He even had the audacity to ask, "And you didn't even lend it, did you?" Just to make them look like the villains, and I mean, what kind of nerve is that? The cop yells at them to straighten their story or spend the night in jail, but Yuna shouts back that we are the ones who were hurt. The bully just sneers that his friend got hit, but the students shout right back, saying it's because his whole group gang rushed John. The officer slams his clipboard down to silence the room, and it's clear our heroes are in deep trouble. Even our super soldier, Kong Jian, knows the situation is getting out of control. It turned out he wasn't ready for the legal fights and piles of paperwork. Right at cue, the door slides open and a guy in a tracksuit walks in to tell the officer he heard about his missing student, and just like that, help is on the way. The bully leader looked up, and his face fell instantly. He stammers out, "Teacher!" and he knows he's in trouble. Teacher Chuyen Su quickly apologizes to the officer for how badly his students acted. But then the cop's mood flips instantly, realizing the teacher is a legendary fighter, so the whole situation suddenly feels like a joke. Tian Su promises to take care of his student, and the cop, who is a huge fan, is more than happy to let it go. Then, without a single warning, the teacher yanks the student by the ear, furious that a pro fighter can't brawl with civilians before a match. Kong Jian watches the whole scene with his usual cold stare while the teacher and bully look back at him with pure tension. Chuyansu drags his student away by the ear while an officer lets Kong Jian's crew go home once his dad, who arrives in a flashy sports car with his face full of bandages, waves cheerfully like nothing's wrong. But back home, the happy mood is gone and Dad is furious, demanding to know if John realizes what he just did. Mom adds that the police said he was bullying his own friends, and that is totally unacceptable. Dad gives him a lecture on how everything in today's world gets recorded, and all the boy can do is apologize. Mom tries to offer comfort, but John already knows this world is far more complicated than the battlefield he left behind. In an instant, the warmth vanishes as Dad's voice freezes and he demands, "Will you keep acting this incompetently?" And suddenly Kong Jian snaps straight like a soldier, vowing it will never happen again, because this family is truly something else. Later that night, he didn't play games. Instead, he frantically typed on his laptop, digging deep into South Korean laws to find a way to fight back against bullies legally. The very next day, we see him waiting at a bus stop. You can tell he's already got a new plan brewing. In a quick flashback, he tells his parents he'll take the bus from now on and go solo, but as he walks away from the stop, he spots something suspicious. Yesterday's bully is talking to Huang Wujiang, and when the goon sees Kong Jian, he quickly slithers away, so he asks Wu Yong if he knows those guys. Wu Yong, true to his usual self, didn't even glance at him, just coldly dismissed him with, "That is none of your business," and strolled off without a second look. Just as that happens, his friends see him near the school gate and wave, which is perfect timing. But their joyful reunion is suddenly interrupted when a flashy yellow SUV screeches to a stop right in front of them. The door swings open and a shiny red sneaker smacks against the ground, showing us a wealthy guy has arrived, and when he steps out, it's Go Jeans, so looking like he owns the whole school, so another big fight is coming. The scene moves to the classroom, where Go Jeans so decides it's time to talk to Kong Jian, who is just minding his own business. And by chat, I mean he leans in as if he's about to give a serious speech on how to stay cool. He jumps right in to ask our boy why he's hanging out with what they call losers. Kong Jian, who clearly missed the memo on high school social tiers, is just like, why not? They are our classmates, right? Jin laughs off this revolutionary idea, claiming you only stick with people your own level because hanging out with those below you drains your social points. Seriously, my guy. While Shiny Una and her friends just relax and don't notice the big drama club meeting going on behind them. Our kid is still trying to make sense of this silly social ladder. Jinso cuts short his unwanted life advice with a simple order. Stop being so boring. Got it. The silence was so heavy and uncomfortable that it felt like it could be cut with a knife. Jinsok is fuming with anger while Kong Jian stays as cool as a cucumber. Then a sharp beep slices through the heavy tension. They both pull out their phones to check the message from Era. She's invited everyone to blow out candles for her big birthday bash at the fancy crystal room at the Hilton. Kong Jian looks over and sees Era sitting with her friends, lost in her own world on her phone. Her friends can't stop pairing her up with the new transfer student, and they aren't hiding their thoughts at all. He just smiles back with pure joy, proving that his grand plan is finally coming to life. Jinsok turns quiet with anger, so mad you can almost see steam rising from his ears. Look at him clenching his teeth. Someone's precious pride just got a serious blow. A little later, we found Kong Jian eating his lunch all by himself in the cafeteria. By enjoying, I mean he is inhaling the food like a vacuum cleaner, having never seen a plate this full in his life. He looks up just as Shin Yuna and her friends, carrying lunch trays, march right toward him. Yuna beams a huge smile at him, but the fun police is right around the corner. Jinsok steps forward with a face as cold as stone, simply telling Jian to move, while Yuna flinches at his harsh tone and immediately apologizes even though she didn't do anything wrong. Jinso doesn't even glance at her, strides right past the whole group, and drops into a seat across from Kong Jian. He slams his tray down so hard that the boy nearly chokes on his food. And here we go again with that lecture where he says, "You're being too soft and that's why they keep clinging to you. My friend, they just wanted to sit with him," he says before calling the Haviots the worst kind of hyenas. Kong Jian just keeps chewing, totally unfazed by this pure cringe. Then Era suddenly pops up from nowhere, leans in close, and asks if he received her message. She smiles and gives him a personal invitation to her birthday party. With his mouth still full, Kong Jian grumbles, "Got it. Real smooth move there, bud," and waves as Era and her friends walk away. A couple of other girls walk past, whispering how lucky he is that the school's most popular girl seems interested in him. Meanwhile, Jinsok looks like he's about to pop a balloon in his head. He slams his spoon onto the tray with a loud crash. His hunger vanished. He doesn't say another word, just stands up from the table and leaves his delicious food behind. As he walks away, he casually tosses the order over his shoulder, muttering, "Clean this up. The nerve of this guy." Kong Jian stares at the untouched food on his tray, and his face turns dark. Jinso keeps walking right past him without so much as a second look. Kong Jian's hand clenches into a fist, shaking from pure anger. You can almost hear his mind screaming, "Capitalist bastard." Because wasting food is his one unforgivable sin and he is absolutely furious. But soon the anger fades, and a smarter idea takes over. Can I eat it? That's what matters now, that's the only priority. After school, our story continues as we look on at the line of fancy cars waiting to pick up the rich kids. Kong Jian was ready to rush off with Yuna and her crew, shouting "Let's go!" too. But he froze the moment you guessed it, and then Jinseo called his name once more. Jinsk yells at him to jump into the car right now. But our boy has no use for this guy's drama, so I'm taking the bus. Jinsuk, clearly annoyed by Jinsuk's size, marched over to his SUV. His patience finally snaps, and he stares them down with a furious look that says, "I didn't ask for this," while everyone else watches in fear as the two of them face off. Kong Jian stands his ground and stares right back without a single drop of fear. With a heavy sigh, he gives in, mutters got to stick with the mission. Drives away from his friends in his car of doom, and thinks this should be fun. The second the door shuts, Jinso runs right back up, just like I warned you not to hang out with those guys. Kong Jian wonders why this guy is so prickly, and honestly so do we. And then Jinso drops the biggest bombshell by not showing up to Era's birthday party. He says it's just plain annoying and can't believe Kong Jian still doesn't get it, leaving him totally lost in this social maze, trying to figure out what's even happening. Then Jinso blows up, yelling that it's really annoying how friendly Era is being with him. He tries to get his way by claiming their families are on friendly terms. As soon as Kong Jian realizes he's being spoken to, his secret agent instincts kick into gear, and he wonders if that greeting is actually a code. Jin Suk stands up and tells everyone that Era is his to keep and will be his girl one day. It's a huge blow to his fragile ego when she shows an interest in someone like Kong Jian. Kong Jian just stared at him with a face that didn't say anything. Jin Suk bristles with defensiveness and snaps back, "What are you so mad about?" But our boy cuts right through the nonsense, asking if jealousy is the reason you are acting this way. The room went silent as Jinsk stood frozen, totally shocked and flustered by being called out. Kong Jian is done with this sudden therapy and demands, "Pull over." But Jinsk laughs, mistaking his friend's warning for a retreat, until Kong Jian says it again in a quiet, threatening voice. Just like that, the tables turned, and the sudden change in attitude made Jin Sok feel scared. The driver hits the brakes hard, and the bright yellow SUV squeals to a sudden stop. Kong Jian quietly opens the door and steps out onto the sidewalk without saying another word. Before he walks away, he turns to strike the final blow, reminding friends to never hurt one another. Ouch. The door bangs shut, leaving Jinsok stuck in his car, frozen with shock, wondering if he just got dumped. As the SUV rolls away, Kong Jian doesn't even glance back because he's already past it and moving forward. But inside the car, Jinsok is so angry he turns to his driver and gives a chilling order. The driver, looking totally surprised, asked him what he meant by that. Jinsok snaps and howls at the top of his lungs, shouting that they beat the guy up. Now the driver's eyes turn hard, but outside, our boy Kong Jian just stands there completely unbothered, looking like a total stone-cold Chad. And get this, Jinsok's driver just flat out won't do it. He just says, "Nope, that's not my job," leaving Jeans totally confused and pulling the classic rich kid trick that could get him fired. The driver didn't even blink, just told the little kid that his dad hired him, not this whiny brat. So what does Jinso do? He scoffs and instantly calls his dad to tell on you, and honestly, you can't make this stuff up. He complains into the phone that his bodyguard ignored his super important instructions, which is just terrible. He then shoves the phone into the driver's hand, telling him to call the big boss. The driver takes the call with a relaxed smile, confirming his original orders, and that's just the start of a good thing. Jinso slumps back into his chair. Then the driver steps out and walks up to Kong Jian. He acts like a tough guy and tells Kong Jian to apologize so he won't have to get hurt. But Kong Jian just looks at him with total calm. Why should I apologize for something I didn't do wrong? The driver tries to say that power matters more than right or wrong, but Kong Jian immediately flips the script by pointing out that if he owns the place, there is absolutely no need for him to apologize. The driver just stares, knowing all his scary tricks are bouncing right off this kid. Then Kong Jian plays it smart by looking up at the security camera and the car's dash cam. He gestures to the crowd watching and smirks. "Are you certain you want to do this right here?" The driver's eyes go wide in shock as he realizes a high schooler has completely outsmarted him. Yet instead of accepting Kong Jian's bold offer to drive them somewhere private, he simply turns around and walks back to his car, done with the whole thing. Jinso is completely stunned. His own hired hand turned tail and bolted for safety. He roars in anger, but the driver just calmly says they're being watched by too many cameras. Jinso completely snaps, drags him away, and finally does it because this kid has zero chill. The driver explains that his only job is to keep Jin-suk close, making sure he never strays too far. While Jin-suk throws his latest fit, the driver delivers the final blow that seals his fate. He said that Jin-suk's father, who is running for office, told him to keep his son out of trouble. He says he'll take care of it later, but right now they're walking away, showing they hold all the power. Jin-suk stops talking and just stares out the window, watching Kong Jian stand there like a frozen statue. Finally, Kong Jian turns and walks away, leaving Jin-so to stare in helpless fury, his teeth grinding in pure rage. As they speed off, Jin-sak keeps screaming how much he hates everyone, making him such a fun character. As Kong Jian heads home, a shadowy watcher follows from the dark, a classic story twist. The lurker moves closer to John and holds up a photo of Jang Dongwoo beaten and held hostage. Kong Jian's calm face shatters instantly into a look that says the situation has just gotten serious. The kidnapper commanded Kong Jian to follow him, and suddenly things turned very dangerous. The scene moves to a dark and gritty warehouse at night, the kind of place where nothing good ever happens. Inside, poor Dongwoo kneels on the floor, surrounded by a crowd of scary-looking tough guys. Kong Jian arrives, led by that curly-haired guy we saw before, and the trap has finally sprung. Dongwoo freezes with pure terror, then shouts for his friend to come save him. Everyone in this warehouse would turn to dust if looks could kill, because Kong Jian looks like he's about to explode with rage. The leader sneers with pride at his trick, having feared our boy wouldn't show up. He even dares to laugh at Kong Jian for loving his friend, but that's a huge error. Kong Jian ignores the trash talk, steps forward, and simply says, "Let him go." The leader turns his anger toward Dongwoo, threatening that if he tells the cops, Dongwoo's female friends will be the ones to suffer. Dongwoo begins to apologize, but Kong Jian gently places a hand on his shoulder to calm him. He orders Dongwoo to stay, then looks at the leader and says, "You're coming with me," sending real shivers down my spine. Suddenly, Kong Jian launches himself forward at lightning speed. The thugs just stand there, staring in shock. Before they could even think about it, boom, Kong Jian has already taken charge. He throws a lightning-fast combo that ends with a brutal punch, sending the guy flying. The leader smashes through a wooden crate and falls out cold, leaving just a few more targets to take down. While the other thugs freeze in fear, Kong Jian is already spinning to strike the next fool. He zips past like a blur, slamming two goons to the ground before they can even throw a punch, turning their attack into a total beatdown. The final survivor is drenched in cold sweat, trembling with pure fear as that monster looms before him. With a final, desperate scream, the thug lunges forward in a last-ditch attack, only to realize it's a terrible mistake. His attack is so useless that Hang stops it with one hand and slams his face with the other. And just like that, it's all over, with the whole crew lying unconscious on the floor in a total disaster. Jang Dongwoo has been watching this whole time and his brain has completely short-circuited, just seeing his friend turn into a one-man army. As Kong Jian looks down at the beaten thugs, The curly-haired boss who started all this finally opens his eyes. His eyes fly open to see the scary shadow of Kong Jian standing over him, which feels like a bad dream. Kong Jian almost turns to leave, but then he remembers what these guys would do to get revenge. His face turns dark because he thinks letting you go will only cause more trouble, and with a sudden snap, he's lost his cool. The tough guy is drenched in sweat and can't speak, while our hero ignores him to search the room for supplies. He sees a pile of wood, grabs a piece without a second thought, and steps right over the unconscious people as if they were just part of the scenery. Then, with a loud crack, he smashes the plank onto the concrete floor. He then calmly begins pulling out long, sharp splinters from the broken wood. The thug is losing his mind, confused by what this crazy guy is doing. The guy tries to act tough one last time, but Kong Jian shuts him down with a single punch that leaves him speechless. That's all it takes. The punch sends him flying, and he lies gasping for air on the grimy floor. Kong Jian crouches down, takes the dazed man's hand, and asks, "You said you're into boxing, right?" He squeezes until the thug's face twists in agony, yet not a single sound escapes his lips. Then he pulls out a fresh wooden splinter, and suddenly things get really dark. Before he starts his work, he turns to Dongwu with a warm smile and asks if he can wait outside for a moment. Dongwu turns pale, gives a quick nod, and leaves before anything else can happen. Now alone, Kong Jian leans over the thug and warns him that crossing his friends will show him exactly how things end. Suddenly, a terrifying scream rings out from the warehouse. Dongwu heard something from outside and instantly knew what it was. The thug trembles on the floor as Kong Jian holds up his hand to show a splinter stuck under his pinky nail, proving there are more where that came from. "Just a tiny 3-centimeter nail," he says calmly, letting more splinters fall around the guy's head like a warning. He grabs the thug by the hair and growls that if you come near him again, he will rip out all your nails and toenails, so understand. The guy is totally broken and just a crying mess, so Kong Jian kicks him away in disgust, which is one way to stop bullying. "Don't ever look at me again," he says. His voice is cold and harsh as the pain he just caused. Then he turns and walks straight away from the mess, leaving one of the groggy thugs to whisper to his friend that the scary monster has finally gone. Outside, Kong Jian rubs his neck and asks himself, "Did I go too far? They're just kids, man. You did amateur surgery with a stick," he says before his mind is suddenly pulled back to his own dark past. We see him as a child, hanging by his wrists from a tree, beaten and worn out. He glances over to his side. But he wasn't the only one who showed up. He still remembers the other children, especially the girl with eyes that looked like empty wells. He shakes his head hard to push the memory out of his mind. He turns to the still shaking Dongwu and says, "You don't need to worry anymore, because now everyone is even more afraid of him." He wraps his arm around his new best friend in a friendly hug. "You know today's big secret is between us, right?" Dongwu could only manage to stammer out his agreement. Then, without a single scratch on his soul from the torture he just endured, he beams a bright smile and asks if I'd like to grab some tekkabaki, leaving me dizzy from such a wild mood swing. The next day at school, everything looked normal. Shinya and Gono stroll along, waving hello to their friends. Kong Jian sits at his desk and gives a casual little wave back, while Dongwu looks a bit scared at first but eventually offers a small wave. Kong Jian gives a small, quiet smile, silently showing that their bond was forged in shared pain. He looks happy with his new crew and thinks everything is going well, but then he glances over at the rest of the classroom. His eyes find Go Jinso, who sits all alone looking like the classic brooding rival you know and love. Kong Jian remembers that Dongwu told him over their victory tekkabaki that Huang Wuzhang was the one who set him up. Dongwu froze with fear, yet he couldn't stop himself from spilling every secret he knew. Kong Jian pieced together the clues and realized Wu Yang had been talking to the thug leader all along, meaning the whole thing was a trap. Just as he gets lost in his thoughts, a new troublemaker named Jin Sak strolls right in. He strides right up to Wang Win and commands him to lock up the gym for the night, a wicked grin spreading across his face. Kong Jian's eyes widen, then turn into a knowing smirk as he realizes Jin Sak's clever trap is actually making the next battle much easier for him, only for Wu Jun to shake his head and say no. Jin Suk looks so shocked it's as if someone just told him Santa isn't real. Wang tells us his dad is in the hospital, so he has no time for this nonsense. Totally annoyed, Jin Sak clicked his tongue and stomped off like a toddler who didn't get his favorite toy. But Kong Jian is there to poke the bear, calmly asking Jeans why nothing ever seems to work out for him. And that, my friends, leaves Jeans so absolutely frozen in his tracks. He is so furious that you can practically feel the heat rising off him. Jin Sok puffs out his chest to threaten our boy, daring him to wait while he finds a place to get him. But Hang Jian just laughs it off with a casual, fine, got it, he says before walking away. leaving Jean so absolutely furious. Suddenly, Wu Yong jolts his head up to find Kang Jian standing there with a dead serious look. He cuts straight to the chase, demanding to know why Wu Jing messed with Dong Jun, but Wu Jing just stares in shock before suddenly going silent, leaving Kang Jian to yank him forward by the collar with a grip so tight it looks like he could crush steel. He grabs Wu Yong, pulls him close, and warns him to stay away from that group, and Wu Yong nods, understanding the message. Then he lets him go and casually invites him to hit the gym, a move so cool it's practically a Chad moment. And with a smug grin, he declares the time has come to settle the score, and the game is officially on. Alright, the scene shifts to the giant TJ Sports building, where Jin Sok's bright yellow SUV rolls to a stop. As Jin Sok's driver steps out, you can sense his frustration thinking, really? I have to fight a group of kids. Recalling how John lost to Wuong and realizing these children are far too strong for them. He remembers how sure of himself John was. The driver laughs it off, convinced he'd never lose to a teenager, until he realizes those were his very last words. He steps forward just once, then stops dead in his tracks. Something or someone has held him back. A shadowy figure in a trench coat and glasses saunters up as if he owns the place, making us wonder just who this stranger is. The man welcomed him with a long time no see, and then dropped the news that he'd heard you quit the company. The driver instantly bowed in respect, but the man in the trench coat just waved his hand, showing he completely understood. Then he asks about the driver's mother, leaving the guy completely stunned because this dude clearly knows things. He explains that the driver was one of his top juniors, so when he vanished suddenly, it immediately set off alarm bells. The driver apologizes again, explaining he thought the man was out of the country and didn't reach out, but the man just shrugs it off with a chill smile and says it can't be helped before revealing he's here on government business. The driver looks completely wrecked, muttering that he must have gotten rusty since leaving the service. The man turns around to ask if anyone knows about CEO Hang, ready to share the important news. The driver says, yeah, he read that Wong fell into a coma, a brain hemorrhage apparently, and then the man drops a bombshell. The bosses believe that legendary assassin Shadow did it. The driver froze in disbelief, whispering, you mean the Shadow? But wait, there's more. He also points to the recent hacking, claiming they believe the North is behind it. Everyone is whispering that the famous hacker Zero might be from the North, and now the mystery gets much deeper. The driver's mind is tripping out, yet the hacker named Zero just nods and says, yes, my friend, keep pushing. While the man grins like a fool because he knows it sounds crazy and he's having the time of his life. He reveals everything just as the Shadow that's been missing for 10 years suddenly reappears. But instead of aiming at a powerful politician, he targets a random mid-sized company CEO, which seems a bit strange, doesn't it? It makes no sense for the legendary hacker Zero to attack a tiny company that isn't even in the top 30. The driver stammers, insisting he's right. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The gears are starting to spin. The man gives him a friendly pat on the shoulder, says it was great to see him, and then gets ready to bounce off. The driver bows again and waves goodbye without looking back, while another man watches him leave, wishing him a safe retirement but quickly deciding it's not possible for legendary heroes like Shadow and Zero to retire in Korea. Meanwhile, in a crazy high-tech room, Kong,